everyone, welcome back to A Wild Approach. I just wanted to quickly just give you a heads up that in this video there's going to be some background noise. There are neighborhood kids playing outside, and so they're screaming and all of that, so I just wanted to warn you ahead of time that there is a lot of noise in the background, most likely, unless they go in by the time I go outside. So just wanted to give you a heads up about that, so sorry for any annoying background noise. I hope it doesn't take away from the video. Okay, so my plan involves multiple different methods of cold, moist stratification. And so I, in the past, have done milk jugs, and it has gone, milk and orange juice jugs, actually, and it's gone great. So I'm going to do that again with 4 of these containers. I have 2 ice cream buckets I'm going to try. I've tried using these before on like more, you know, traditional gardening, veggie gardening type plants, and it didn't really work great, but it should work just fine with native plants, so I'm going to try that. And then I've got some perlite, and then I have 2 water pitchers because I need to dampen the soil. We don't want it to be dried out. So I have 2 of those. I have these, which I need to clean, and since it's winter time and the hose is not hooked up, I'll just be using the water and maybe some soap on these. But I don't know if I'm going to be using all of these. I have a bunch of pots in my garage. It's insane. And then this is the soil I have because all the other soil I saw for containers and potting mixes, all of it had fertilizer in it. I didn't want anything with fertilizer in it. Now, can I guarantee that this doesn't? No. But it doesn't say it has it. It says derived from a combination of pine fines, hardwood fines, and forest products. And that sounded more organic to me, and that sounded less chemical-y. So that seemed like the best thing I could find at Lowe's. This is not a seed starting soil, so again, I don't know a lot about soil. I just know this is not seed starting soil, but I'm using it anyway because all the seed starting soil I saw was questionable and you didn't get as much. They're like little tiny bags. And then I have, again, perlite. I already had perlite, so I didn't have to buy that, but I bought it anyway because I wasn't sure how much I had. And then over here I just have seeds. So I've got some seeds I bought from Prairie Moon, and I've got some seeds from a seed swap down in here. I've got a non-native plant here, which is rosemary. I do really like rosemary, so I have a few seeds from my rosemary plant, and I want to pot it up and see if I can grow it again, because my current rosemary is not doing the best. And then I have some blue mist flower seeds, and I love blue mist flower. I want to incorporate it throughout my entire garden because it has been the best plant for me battling that Bermuda grass, because it gets just tall enough to shade it out. So I love it. So many other plants that I try to plant to crowd out the Bermuda doesn't work because the Bermuda will just vine up through the middle of the clump, but the mist flower so far, it's been doing a really good job. So yeah, so that's what we have. We have seeds, we have soil. Again, this might not be what you want to use. You might want to use something else. Do research. I'm still confused about what soil to use. I also have some compost. It's actually a blend from that same company, and it's compost and manure. This is actually what I typically use if I'm amending any garden beds out front. This is kind of how I started my garden, except for, you know, I really started it with leaves, but then I also used compost and manure. And so far I really like it, but again, I wasn't really sure if this was good to use for seed starting, so I didn't want to use that for seed starting, so I went and got this. Because it seems more just like, I don't know how to describe it. There was some open at the store and I felt it and I touched it and it was really fine, but it wasn't as fine as seed starting mix, but it was pretty fine. I hadn't found any other, I haven't found potting soil or anything else as fine as this. But again, it could vary bag to bag. So again, you just might want to do your own research, because this is technically not what most people use for seed starting. I know that for sure. But a lot of the seed starting I'm doing is outside, so I thought this might be okay. We'll see. And I have to get this table. I don't have a potting bench, so I need to resurrect this table and set it up. Another thing you will want is you'll want some kind of drill, and you'll want some drill bits, because I like to use these to drill the holes for drainage in the bottom of the containers, and I would drill them in the tops of those containers over there, those little baking containers. So you'll want that, and you'll also want something like this to cut the actual seam in your jug. So you're going to want to cut a seam about here, and you're going to want to leave this part uncut, because you don't want it to just rip all the way off. You want it to kind of have a hinge right here. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to start cutting this. Sometimes they get these little dents in them and you just kind of have to work with it and push it out. be careful if you get any of these sharp corners. It's easy to accidentally do that, just like I did just now. Just be careful not to cut yourself on that. See, now we have our container, we have our little hinge. We can probably actually cut a little bit more because it did kind of struggle to open, but I think I'm going to leave it because I would rather it not be, you know, too lean to where it would just rip off. So after that, you are going to want to drill your holes in the bottom of this. You can decide what size of drill bit you want to use. I like to use some of the larger ones, like this 5/16 looks pretty good, but you could probably even go all the way up to the largest one, which in here is a 1/2. As you can see that right there, 1/2 inch. So use your own judgment on that. I think I'm just going to do the 5/16. Press the backwards button to come back out. It just makes it easier. So you use your own discretion and your own judgment on this, but this is what I just did. This is how many holes I just put in here, because you want really good drainage. You don't want anything to rot. So again, use your own judgment, but I would think that it would be better to have more drainage than less drainage. So err on the side of caution and err on the side of more holes than less holes. So the next thing you want to do is, if you have a lid on here, you want to take that off. You do not want a lid on here because all the rain needs to go in here. And if you get snow in your area, all the snow needs to go in here. So snow and rain will go in here. It'll keep your plants, or actually it'll keep your seeds and your seedlings moist throughout the winter. And that's what we want, because we want cold, moist stratification for most of our native seeds. Except warm season grasses. Most warm season grasses actually wouldn't be planted till spring, and it would actually be almost like late spring, early summer, because you want the ground to be plenty warm enough for warm season grasses. So warm season grasses, don't do that right now. Do your the plants that need stratification. That's what you would plant right now. Those are the seeds you would sow. So the next thing that I need is my duct tape. When you are done, after you put your soil in here, you're going to duct tape around the seam to close it up. That keeps it protected. That keeps it moist but not wet. Because, you know, your drainage is here. So you're going to have your drainage come out here. but you're going to have your moisture, your snow and your water, your snow and your rain that go in here, and it's like a little mini greenhouse that you don't have to touch. But it's not even a greenhouse because we're doing cold stratification, so it's more like a cold frame. But anyway, it protects your seeds from a lot of things like wildlife. Like they can't just like eat your seeds because they can't get in here. I just want you to see what this soil looks like. So it's pretty finely, like it's pretty fine. You see it? This is probably one of the best soils I've seen when it comes to like texture for seed starting, because you want it to be as fine as you can get it pretty much without losing too much of water holding capacity, because you want your seedlings not to struggle to germinate, and sometimes they can struggle to germinate if these pieces right here are too big. And you can see these are like the biggest pieces, really. Can you even see that? And in some of those bad potting mixes I've seen, they're way bigger than this. So far this is pretty good. If you want, you can run it through a sieve or a screen, and you can screen out the larger pieces, which would probably be even better for seed sowing. Again, I don't know much about soil, but this is what I've seen, and if it's wrong, well, let me know in the comments. I didn't bring a shovel out here, so I'm actually going to use this little cup to get my soil out, but I have some acorns in here, and I thought I would try to plant them. I don't know if they would actually germinate because they've been in here a little while, and they might not do anything. They might be bad because I know that they don't keep very well all the time, especially if you don't know how to keep them. And so I figured I would plant a few in some pots, but that's not this moment. I'm actually just taking them out of here so I can use this to get the soil and scoop it out and put it here. You want your soil level to be about an inch from the top edge of this, and it looks like we have just a little bit over an inch, so I'm going to add just a little bit more soil, and then we should be ready to moisten the soil. Okay, so we're gonna let that soak in, make sure it's moist but not too wet. And while that is doing that, we can talk about these seeds. So I have a whole thing of seeds here. So I've got stiff gentian. I've got wild geranium. I have columbine. Foxglove beard tongue. Pale beard tongue. Jacob's ladder. Aromatic aster. And then we get into some warm season grasses. So these warm season grasses I'm not going to be winter sowing because they need to be put out in late spring, early summer. Probably May or June in my area, and I'm in East Tennessee. So purple lovegrass. Now the sedges, not really sure. I'll have to do a little bit. Actually it says it needs 60 days of cold, moist stratification. So yeah, this would be great to also stratify. In fact, it has to be stratified. So we'll probably put these in containers, but since it only needs 60 days of cold stratification, kind of think about that when you decide what to sow. And you might want to put some things outside like I do, and you might want to put some things in the fridge, depending on where you live and how many days of cold you actually get. So I'm probably just going to winter sow them in a container or in the ground. That's probably what I'm going to do with these. Then we have prairie drop seed, which I think this is a, yeah, this is a warm, you want to wait till it's warm to sow these, so these are going to be put with the purple lovegrass. So I actually need to switch that around. So we're going to have our purple lovegrass, our prairie drop seed, little blue stem. Those are going to be planted later in May or June. And the rest of this we're going to winter sow. This purple prairie clover, I'm not really sure. Sow on a weed-free site late fall through spring. Seed will germinate without overwintering. So this one can pretty much be planted anytime, it looks like, between fall and spring. So we can probably winter sow this if we want. This was a freebie, so there's probably not a ton in there. So these are seeds I got from a Wild Ones seed swap. So these two have really good instructions on them, which is really nice. And Cardinal Flower says, in late fall, sow seed very lightly on bare ground. Do not let seed be covered by mulch or falling leaves. Look for germination in mid to late spring. Thin seedlings to 6 inches. Transplant extra seedlings to other sites or pots for giveaways. So this says on bare ground, but I have a lot of leaves in my garden, so I think I would try this in a pot or in a jug because they get light. Actually, I might put them in here because this is super clear. That way they get plenty of light, because it sounds like they don't like to be covered by anything, even a thin layer of leaves. So I have a lot of pine needles and leaves here, which I love because it's free mulch. But it sounds like Cardinal Flower is a special one, and it needs to kind of be separated from that until it gets a little bit bigger and it can handle a little bit more mulch around it. So we're going to plant it in here, and it'll get lots of light. And we'll just have to keep an eye on it because Cardinal Flower likes more moisture, so we're going to want to make sure it has plenty of moisture. I accidentally overseeded the Cardinal Flower a little bit, so I'm going to try to move them around just a little bit. They're so tiny though, so I don't want to bury them, so now I'm going to push them in to make good soil contact. And then we're just going to double check that there aren't any seeds on here. I think I see 1 or 2, so I'm going to put those back in here. Scrape it on the sides. There's a lot of bird activity right now. A bird landed right there on the goldenrod a minute ago. It was really cool. Bad news, I accidentally forgot to moisten this first, so I'm going to moisten it, and I might have to seed somewhere on top. We'll see. And that's why you want to moisten them first. As you can see, you can't even really see them anymore. So they've gotten washed down into the soil. So now I need to add more on top. And then press them in, and then I will put the marker on. I actually just saw a hornet or a yellow jacket or something. I don't know what it was, but it is so cold that I did not expect to see that. And he flew right up to me. And I did kind of freak out just because it was so unexpected. And he was hovering right at me. He was probably after the water or the soil or something. He probably thought I had some grubs for him to eat, but I definitely do not. I just wanted to show you, look how many seeds that I got from that swap. Some of these seeds were ones I took to the swap because we had extra. Like, this is my handwriting. But the rest of these are all from other people because we traded seeds with each other. And it's just really cool. There's so many in here. And really, really good ones. I'm really excited about Indian grass and rattlesnake master and this wild senna. Wild senna is beautiful. So I'm really excited about all of those. And I just wanted you guys to see the bounty that is a seed swap. I also have some winged sumac that I actually collected myself. And I have a lot of, what is it? River oats from the seed swap. And they, I mean, based on the name river oats, I think they need a lot of moisture. I'm not sure how much sun or shade they need. I think they can take some shade. So I'll probably plant these directly, and I'll probably plant them like back here in the backyard because this is my most moist area back here. So I think I want to start off with a plant that I have a lot of seeds for because I want to put some things in jugs, some things straight in the ground, and then some seeds in the cake pans. And so the reason for that is I want to make sure that I at least have one plant that has a lot of seeds for testing to see which winter sowing method it liked the best. So I think that would be a good experiment. I have 3 packets of wild geraniums, so I think this might be a good one to test out with that. They require 60 days of cold, moist stratification. Seeds best planted outdoors in the fall. Of course, this is early winter at this point, but I am a little late, but I think it should be okay because we still have, you know, January and February, and then a little bit of March is usually cold too. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to unseal this. It says there's about 45 seeds in this. I'm not sure what the germination rate is on wild geranium, but it says plant no deeper than the width of the seed. It says it can take full sun, part sun, and shade. It likes medium to medium dry, which that's good because a lot of my garden up front is dry or medium. It blooms April to July, and it's about 1 foot in height. So let's see what we got here. This is what it looks like in there. I have a plant called Carolina cranesbill that is in the same, like they're related. So I don't want to get a ton of these. I don't want to overseed, but I also don't want to underseed. So that's always the trickiest part. So this is how many I grabbed. So it feels like it. Looks like there's moisture all the way down into here. So I think we're good there. Let's see. My other camera ran out of space, so now I gotta use my cell phone. So this is what the seeds look like. And I'll try to zoom in so you can really see them. Kind of interesting little wrinkly seeds. And I'm just going to try to space them out in this soil as best I can. I don't know if you can see that at all. Hopefully. I'm putting a little bit more than I need, just because if they don't germinate very well, I just want to do it because of that. And I am going to sprinkle some of them over here because I have a few in my hand that are extra that I don't want to put in there. So I'm actually going to make a little spot here since it only gets up to 1 foot high. I'm going to clear a little area. I just need to find an empty spot here. I don't think I have anything here. So I'm just going to open this ground up just a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle. Ooh, that is blown out. Just going to gently sprinkle them around here. And then I'm going to get, I'm actually just gonna step on them. Just to make sure they make contact. They're pretty small. I don't want to bury them, but they kind of went into the little crevices of the soil. So now I'm just stepping on them to make sure they make contact. So this is a spot where I have wild geranium now. Okay, so now I need to make these have really good soil contact. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to lay this in here and I'm going to push down gently. Just double check that there are no seeds stuck to the lid. It doesn't look like it. So they should all be making good contact. You can kind of see them in there. You can kind of see that's one. There's some down here where I lost. There they are. You can kind of see them. So now what we got to do is we got to take our tape and we've got to wrap it around here and seal it up. And then we're just going to sit it aside. And I'm going to sit mine in the sun. I've seen people do it different ways. Some people say to put it in the shade. Some people say to put it in the sun. But I like to put mine in the sun. So that's what I'm going to do. And you just use your own judgment on that. Alright, so pen and marker and all that fades in the sun. So to put plant markers on all of my stuff, I'm going to use pencil. It usually lasts, believe it or not, it actually usually lasts outside crazy long. But the caveat is I gotta write it on something and I don't have any popsicle sticks right now. So I'm gonna write it on paper and then I'm gonna hope that this packing tape protects the paper when I attach it to the jugs. So that's my plan. Hopefully it works. I guess we'll find out in the spring. So you want to write the name of the plant, and you can decide if you want to do the common name or the scientific name. But then you also want to put the date that you seeded it. Of course, you don't have to put the year. I just, out of habit, put the year. So you can just put January 6th if you sowed them today on January 6th, and that should be good. You can put other information on here if you like. You could put a date that you want to check on them. You could put a date that they should start germinating. Whatever you think you need there, you can add it, but I'm just going to put the common name and the date. Alright, so somehow I have to hold the camera and put this on here at the same time. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but there we go. Now I'm going to add a little bit of tape up here to reinforce it because I want to protect it from the rain. So I might actually put some tape here and put some tape at the bottom, and then that should hopefully protect it from the rain. That way we don't forget what's in here, because that probably wouldn't be too big a deal, because once they germinate, if they do germinate, then you'll be able to tell what they are eventually. But the problem is, if they don't germinate and you don't have it marked and you don't remember what it is, then you're not going to know which thing had difficulty germinating in a jug, or which thing had difficulty germinating with this late of a sowing. And it's just good to know all that. So, all right, there we go. There's our first jug. So let's look at another method. So another method I'm going to do is I'm going to use these cake pans. Now I meant to get lasagna pans. I didn't realize the thickness. I don't think this is deep enough. So what I did was I took two of them and I combined them, and I kind of, it's very mishmash, or whatever you want to say. It's very messy. I feel like I hear a hawk. I thought I heard a hawk coming from that way. Huh, not sure. I see hawks here sometimes, as you've seen if you watched my past videos. But anyway, so I double-deckered this one. I had to cut the bottom out of one and I slipped it into the other one, but it's not very sturdy. Okay, pretty sure there's a hawk somewhere, but I can't see it. Anyway, so I slipped it inside of it to add to the layers. That might not be a hawk, it might be a crow. Now that I hear it again. Anyway, and I have holes in the lid for rain and snow to get in. And I have holes in the bottom for drainage. Super important. So this one's deeper, so this one might do better. But I might try a couple of these smaller ones just to see how they do. I just don't want to waste too much seed on them if they're not deep enough. So I might just put a few in here. I might have lower germination because I might have fewer seeds in there. So yeah, but for now I'm just going to show you guys this one. I'm going to put soil in it and I'm going to put some seeds in it. Okay, so there was a piece that was sort of bigger, but still a lot smaller than a lot of the other soils that I've had. So now I'm just gonna kind of see what level of soil we're at. So we want like a 1/2 inch to 1 inch of space between the soil level and the top of the pan. Don't want to compact it too much, but I don't want it to be too uneven either. So let's see. We might could fit a little bit more soil. Okay, now I'm going to moisten the soil. We don't want it to be too wet, but we don't want it to be dry. We're gonna do the wild geranium again, just because I have these in my pocket and they're open, and I'm just going to give them a little bit of space between each one. Sometimes I accidentally put them too close together, but and I'm going to sow this a little bit more because, again, I don't know the germination rate on these. Alright, then I'm going to gently press them in. Okay, now we can put the lid on. I'm gonna make a little plant marker to go, I don't know, I'll probably put it on the side or something. Because I don't want it to be inundated with water, so I don't want to really put it on top, so I might put it on the side. Go. This is all I'm actually going to do today because it's freezing and the sun is going to go down in about an hour or less. But yeah, I'm just really cold. My hands are so cold, it makes it hard to work with them. And so I've got a rattlesnake master, Jacob's ladder, wild geranium, and cardinal flower. And this is just more wild geranium. So that is what I have done today so far. And I guess the next thing you're going to see is just me direct sowing on another day because it's just too cold today. Okay, so in this footage, I'm just moving some leaves, pine needles, and pine bark, I think, mulch, away from the soil so I can actually prepare the soil for sowing some seeds. And in this spot in particular, it's such a skinny strip of soil that I wanted something that stayed relatively short, relatively compact. Of course it fluffs out, but I picked mistflower, blue mistflower, and I think it should do well here because this spot can get kind of muddy and moist, but it can also kind of get dry and it gets sun. So far, places that are similar on my property, mistflower has done beautifully in. So hopefully it'll do great here too. Like I said, I have other areas similar to this, but they're not exactly the same soil-wise and everything, but it's pretty close, so I think it'll work. And in this shot, I had trouble getting a good shot of this, but this is just me getting the seeds out and then sowing them on the soil surface. But as soon as I sow them on the soil surface, I have to press them in. And I just want to give you all a heads up that I didn't really realize this until I watched this back. But when I press the seeds into the soil surface, I use a little hand rake, or whatever that's called, a little hand rake, just like I did when I was prepping the soil. That tool is what I used to press the seeds in, and I didn't think about it till I watched it back, but I could have been doing more harm than good using that to press them in, because if you can see, the soil is sticking to the rake, and you don't want that. So what can happen is the seeds can get pulled back off the soil and get stuck to that mud, because this area was particularly muddy. I did not moisten it at all. That was already like that. So keep that in mind. It would have been better if I would have used my little plastic lid that you saw me use earlier in the video to press them down and then to scrape back off anything that got stuck. But it's harder to do with this rake, so I don't know if I need to sow some more seeds here, because I very well could have just ruined my work that I put into it, but we'll see. And then I cover it up to protect it from squirrels and birds. So I've got rocks propped up there with a little grate over it. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Wild Approach. In this video, I just want to show what you can do if you have collected chokeberry seeds and you have set them to dry out like I did. This isn't really the best way to get the seeds, to let these berries dry out. I found out that it's better if you squish them while they're juicy, but ripe enough that the seeds are done. So I didn't know that. So when I collected these last season, yeah, I've had them in a jar for a while. I actually let them dry out before I found that out, and so I didn't think I'd be able to do anything with these. Well, I tried to plant some of them as the berries in a pot of soil, and nothing seemed to happen. So now I am looking back at my jar, and I poured them out on this paper, and this is what they look like, all wrinkly and dry. So apparently it's better not to do it this way. It's better to squish them while they're juicy. It's easier to get the seeds out. But I noticed that I've been able to peel the seeds out of the middle, and this is what the seeds look like. So all I do, and I'll try to demonstrate it for you here, is I take it and I dig my nails into it as hard as I can. So you kind of have to have some sort of nails to do this, or a knife. I guess you could try a knife. And if you can see, there's the little seed. Let's see if I can focus in on that. There's the seed right there. So I'll take it out. There it is. So I cannot guarantee that these are viable at this point because they've sat in these fruits for so long. But they actually don't look bad to me. They look good. So I'm going to try to plant them in some pots in the seed form instead of in the berry form. And I'm pretty sure some of the seeds are viable and some of the seeds are not viable based on size and weight. And you notice some of them are fatter, like this. I don't know if it'll focus. Some of them are fatter like this, but some of them are more flat and more just non-existent. Like, here's a good comparison. I'll zoom in on this for you so you can see. If you see the one on the right there, move some of this out of the way. You notice in the middle you see these two seeds. The one on the right is more flat and thin, almost like paper thin, and the one on the left is more fat. So I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that those little flat papery ones are not viable, and I'm assuming that the fatter ones are the more viable ones. So you can kind of get an idea by looking at this, like the different sizes. So I'm just going to separate these, and I'm going to take them outside with me when I do my winter sowing. In this footage, I didn't talk in this footage, so I'm just recording a voice over it. There was a lot of chaos this day, so I didn't talk in this, but I just want to explain some things because earlier in the video, you saw me use just that evergreen topsoil, and I didn't use any perlite. But in this video, I'm using perlite, the topsoil I already showed you, and compost and manure mix together. And I'm mixing it all together and creating a mix out of it, and it is kind of heavy, so I'm not recommending you use this. I'm using it as an experiment because I don't want to lose all of my winter sowing if I have a bad success rate with that soil that I mentioned before. You know, if that evergreen topsoil isn't good for starting seeds, then I'm kind of out of luck if I use that for every single pot and every single jug. So instead, I decided that for this set of winter sowing pots, I was going to use a mix that I created, which again, it is some perlite, some of that evergreen topsoil, and that, remember, that evergreen topsoil is very fine, and that's what I like about that, is that texture for seed starting. And then the other is that compost and manure. And you may be wondering why, and the reason is because, again, I'm not a soil expert. I still have a lot to learn with soil. And I always get confused about inert soil versus fertile soil and fertilizers and what goes into a fertilizer. Is it a chemical fertilizer? Is it natural? Like what that means? Like, I still have a lot to learn about that. And so, as I said earlier, I avoided the potting mixes from those companies that I don't really want to affiliate with, and they have fertilizers already in them, and so I was avoiding using those. So just want to clarify why I'm using the soil that I'm using and what specifically I'm trying. And it's an experiment. You know, I want to see, can I grow seeds in just that very fine topsoil from that evergreen company, or do I have to have compost or manure in it to give it some sort of nutrients? You know, I want to know what I need to use, and I, at the same time, want to avoid using things from companies I don't agree with. So anyway, all that to say, now we can move on to the next stage of the video. Okay, and the other method of winter sowing that I want to do is actually in the refrigerator. So it involves using these coffee filters, which the kind that I have been sitting around a while. They're just natural brown unbleached paper basket filters. I don't know what the best kind to use are, but that's what I have on hand, so that's what I'm going to use. This is what they look like. So they're not the white ones, they're the natural brown ones. Okay, so these are the plastic baggies I'm going to use, and they're short because I saw somewhere online that it's like if you have the taller bags, all that empty wasted space, it can promote mold growth. I don't know how true that is. I haven't tested this out, this specific method. But anyway, so I just want to use what I have on hand anyways, and they just so happen to be short. So that's what I have, and maybe that'll be good. We'll see. And I'm going to label these, and you can label them with anything pretty much, a marker or a pen or whatever will actually write on here, because they're just going in the fridge, they're not going out in the sun, so these you can use whatever. But I'm not going to demonstrate this for you guys because there's a really great video that's already created, and the video that I currently am in right now, that you see me in right now, is already very, very long. So if you want to see the process of using these coffee filters and these baggies and your seeds and putting them in the refrigerator for the winter, go over to 90% Native's channel. She did a fabulous video about this, and I took this idea from her. This is not my original idea. This is her original idea. I don't know where she got it from, but anyway, so I got it from her, and just check out her channel and you'll see exactly how to do this. I'll leave a link to this method down below, but I did want to include a couple of minutes of me talking about this at the end of this winter sowing video because I am doing this method as well. And the reason I'm doing this in so many different ways is because I have found that I have different varying success rates, different years and different methods, and I haven't pinned down scientifically which method is the best at my house, because it can really vary depending on your microclimate, depending on what seeds you're trying to sow, just anyway, so many variations and variables to consider. So I am doing, as you saw, just to review this video, I'm doing the jug method, where you have the milk jugs, orange juice jugs, whatever. And then I'm also doing like the cake pan method, which is really the lasagna pan method. And then I'm also doing directly in the ground, just direct seeding on top of the ground method. And I'm also doing the pot method, where you just put your seeds in pots, try to protect them as best you can. As you saw, I had chicken wire around mine. And then the fridge method, and that's a lot of different methods, but I really want to know which one is the best germination and the least amount of work, because there's a lot of work that goes into some of these methods, and then there's less work that goes into other methods. So I'm really curious to see which method I'm best at, and then that will probably be the method I use moving forward, just to simplify things. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please come back to this channel for more. I have so many ideas for content down the line, but in the meantime, feel free to rewatch this video multiple times, or just watch pieces of it, whatever part of it that you need to see, and go over to 90% Native's channel, watch her videos. They're awesome too. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye! To support the channel, like the video, comment, and subscribe. You can also support my work by buying art from me at macylu.com. Thanks for watching!